Number 10. Keyboard breaking freakout, Arch in Nevada. It's not unnatural to see people get angry when playing a video game. Sometimes that guy really did steal your kill or ruin your game, but when it comes to Twitch streamer Arch in Nevada, he took anger to a whole new level. Not long after dying in his Dota 2 match, he freaks out and loses it. He stands up, grabs his keyboard, and begins smashing it to pieces against his desk, all the while emitting a scream at a decibel and pitch high enough to recall the demons back to hell. He began screeching so loudly that his mic actually started malfunctioning. Not long after this big tantrum, his mom comes rushing in off camera, trying to calm him down. This only seems to make the matter worse, and he begins to tear into her verbally. Well, assumably his mic makes it difficult to understand what the hell's going on. Naturally, people getting angry and breaking stuff has of course been caught on camera before, but it's a whole different story when it's seen live in an otherwise pretty normal Twitch stream. Number 9. Resident Sleeper, Oddler. This one is the origin of a pretty popular emote on Twitch. A streamer by the name of Oddler was marathoning Resident Evil and had made it 65 hours and 40 minutes into the stream when in a loading screen, he dropped. No, not dead, but he passed out faster than you could blink. He remained seated in his chair, but his head had rolled back and his mouth was left wide open. He slept for almost a full hour until he finally woke up and just got up and walked off camera. The chat blew up not long after with quotes like, "Morning sunshine," or "Wakey wakey, eggs and bakey." It was one of the first real times a streamer had completely passed out live on a stream for that long, so Twitch's staff, catching wind of the news, quickly made it an official emote on Twitch. Now if you go on Twitch and type "Resident Sleeper" with no spaces and both words capitalized, his face when he was sleeping appears in the chat. We have to hand it to Twitch. They do know their audience. Number 8. Donation Train, LOL Renee. Number 8 comes from a really well-known streamer on Twitch called LOL Renee. She streams all the time, but this one time she barely got to play the game at all, being unfairly interrupted multiple times throughout the stream. The reason for her tragic lack of playtime resulted from what on Twitch is known as a dreaded donation train. Everything was normal. LOL Renee was just playing Rocket League as per usual on a Friday night when she began receiving donations at an alarming rate. The reason this donation train began was because not too long before the stream, her place got robbed while she was away. It wasn't too bad, they only took small, easy-to-grab things, but it was enough to make a dent in her wallet. The train rode on for quite some time until she eventually started breaking down into tears on stream. This went on for over an hour, with her breaking into tears only 20 or so minutes in, but finally, at the end of it, she thanked everyone for their kindness, but couldn't really continue the stream because of the state she was in. She later posted on Twitter that the total was around $12,000. She also explained that the donations she received that night were pretty close to the amount that she had made off of Twitch the entire previous year, ad revenue included. Number 7. Cat Attack from S.W.A.T. Number 7 is a bit more gruesome than the rest. Streamer S.W.A.T got into a bit of an accident live on stream. One night when she was streaming Call of Duty, her little cat decided to rest on her chair. It all seemed innocent enough. The cat was resting there and she just decided to snuggle up a bit. But as most of us know, cats are fickle animals and change their minds at a moment's notice. The cat swiped at her, cutting her eye open. It was a big shock for her and everyone watching. S.W.A.T.'s audience spanned many age groups, and many of the viewers of the stream were young teenagers. For many of the viewers, the graphic damage to her eye was absolutely horrific, to say the least, and even for older users, this was one of the first times something like this had happened. When she actually looked up to the camera, her eye was completely red and a steady stream of blood flowing down her face. Still in shock, as she realized the damage the cat had done, she began to panic and called for help. Luckily, she did get help off screen and has since made a full recovery. She's since returned to streaming, although she has much less trust for her not-so-little kitty. Number 6. Twitch beats Pokemon from fucking Twitch. So this one's a bit different, to say the least. On February 12, 2014, a Twitch channel called Twitch Plays Pokemon showed up out of nowhere on Twitch with the simple premise the in-game player's actions and movements would be decided by none other than the chat. Simple chat commands like up, down, A, B, and start were added, and viewers entered commands sequentially for the game to process and do. The stream quickly became site-wide famous, and chat was always, for the most part, trying to progress the game as well as they could, with hundreds of thousands of people entering commands. The whole thing seemed like a joke, especially after taking over 9 hours just to get inside Brock's gym. Eventually, after 16 days, 7 hours, 50 minutes, 7 seconds, and hours of endless pausing, saving, and walking in circles, Twitch chat finally beat the game and the credits began to roll. It came as a shock to everyone who heard about it. Even the chat itself was surprised at what they accomplished. With almost 66,000 people in chat, they were able to beat the game. Since this happened, there have been several imitative Twitch play streams with other games ranging from Tetris to The Legend of Zelda, but nothing really tops the original feat. Number 5. Voice Souls from Beersley. We have to mention the Dark Souls guy. Beersley is a well-known streamer for being the crazy guy who finds new ways to beat the already infamously difficult game Dark Souls. The difference between him and regular Dark Souls players is that he beats Dark Souls through some pretty, different means. One of his more recent achievements when it comes to Dark Souls is that he beat it without touching a controller, keyboard, mouse, or any form of stand peripheral. Beersley used a voice recognition software to recognize his voice commands and do the subsequent actions for him. By saying words like walk forward and attack, he was able to control the game with nothing more than his voice and a whole lot of patience. Now, after 30 hours of gameplay and 485 deaths, he actually beat the game using nothing but his voice. Ridiculous as the feat may sound, this wasn't the first time Beersley has done something like this. In the past, he's been known as the guy who beat Dark Souls with a Guitar Hero, a Rock Band drum set, and a set of Donkey Kong bongos. He knows the game inside and out, and at this point, we're a little worried on what he's going to try next. Number 4. SWAT from Kutra. Number 4 is part of a bigger picture, a problem that's been somewhat of a plague upon Twitch and other mediums: swatting, or the act of calling the police on someone, usually a streamer, and reporting a crime in the area of that person. This usually results in police forces, noticeably including SWAT units, showing up on false charges. Several Twitch streamers have been swatted in the past, but on August 27, 2014, it happened to a very popular streamer named Kutra. He was relaxing, streaming a bit of CSGO when he begins to hear noises outside of his office. Lucky for him, he noticed what was going on just before the storm hit. SWAT came rushing in, yelling at him to put his hands up and get on the ground. Kutra, realizing somebody obviously called SWAT forces on him, was pretty compliant and already had his hands off his keyboard as the police came in. Many views, being from a bystander point of view, felt that the SWAT team used a bit of excessive force, but in all fairness, they were prepared for a possibly armed assailant with a gun. Either way, things were eventually cleared up and everything ended all right. The only harm done was a night of wasted tax dollars. Number 3. False Arrest Robbery, Mr. 13ig. Twitch streamer Mr. 13ig was part of a very strange and crazy turn of events. He was casually streaming from his house as usual when he gets a knock on the door from the police. Apparently, there'd been a crime in the area and they were investigating it. Seemed simple enough. He explained that he knew nothing about it and had been in his house streaming. He chose not to give his name when they asked, as was his legal right, seeing he was only being questioned by circumstance. The police then jumped the gun, so to speak, and arrested him. Minutes after being pulled out of his apartment, something weird was caught on his computer camera. Since the police had forcefully removed Mr. 13ig from his house, his stream was still running and his door was left unlocked. Taking advantage of the unlocked door and unaware of the ongoing stream, another person enters into view and begins moving around the apartment. It turned out that it was one of Mr. 13ig's neighbors, who wasted no time picking through his belongings the second he noticed no one was home. Among his loot, the neighbor is able to steal a pair of shoes, a headset, a propane torch, and Mr. 13ig's phone and wallet. The stream's chat were frantically calling the police over the robbery, and not long after, one of the arresting officers re-entered the apartment. Luckily, since everything was caught on camera, the neighbor was quickly arrested and the stolen items returned. Number 2. Robbery Live, say Janine. Number 2 takes place in definitely the most dangerous situation. Streamer S.W.A.T was robbed at gunpoint live on stream. The stream began as per usual with her just playing Dota 2, but not long after, she starts to hear a lot of noise from out behind her. It turned out that while she had been playing, and unbeknownst to her, a robber broke into the back room and threatening her boyfriend. She leaves the room for a few minutes to investigate, and seconds later, another person enters the shot wearing all black and a small weapon. The robber moves around the room, grabbing various items and searching through drawers. After a few minutes of searching, he begins to leave, but not before the camera can catch another fleeting glimpse of the gun he had in his hand. It was a pretty scary experience for the streamer, and a lot of the chat for the stream began to panic, wondering what they could do to help. Thankfully, the police showed up and were able to defuse the situation. It turned out that the 2 robbers who broke in were able to find very few items of value and had managed to steal next to nothing before being caught. Number 1. Hot House from something in Japanese. A streamer who goes by a name we have no right trying to pronounce had a bit of an accident live on stream. As he was streaming some Minecraft, he decided to take a smoke break right there on camera. Normal enough, but for an unknown reason, he decided it would be a great idea to put on a little show and light his match on the rough underside of his lighter. He quickly refilled it with lighter fluid. He then ran the match across the lighter, which was still wet with fluid, and the whole thing caught on fire. Panicking, he threw the lighter to the floor and tossed the match beside him into a garbage bag filled with paper, which then also caught fire. He then proceeded to not follow any form of fire procedure and moved the bag to the corner of the room, which also just so happens to be littered with stacks upon stacks of paper. Needless to say, the entire room caught fire, and after just a few minutes of battling the flames, he fled the apartment. He lived in an apartment building, and as a result of his really stupid mistake, 3 buildings caught fire, and 1 woman sadly passed away. The stream cuts off several minutes after he leaves the room, probably because computers don't take kindly to being in a room engulfed in flames.